Welcome to Comic Conversation, everybody. This is episode 61. It's Thursday once again. And folks, we have a very special episode for you tonight. We have a guest with us, as you can see here in the panel from the logo. We have the co-founder, president, and primary grader of CBCS Comics. He's also on the board of directors for the Heroes Initiative. He helped create certification, and he was also, at one point, the senior consignment director for Heritage Auctions, one of the largest auction houses in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Steve Borock.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Doing great. Doing really great. Glad to have you here with us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So we wanted to talk about, this has been a big week, of course, right? There's been some news around merger acquisition, if you will, with CBCS Comics and Beckett Media. So we definitely want to talk about that. I'm sure people have a lot of questions around it, about kind of how it came about and what to expect possibly in the future. So we'll touch on that in a little bit. But I wanted to kind of ask you first, I guess, what are your bona fides? Like, how did you start collecting and kind of what was your path through your hobby for yourself through the years?
Wow. I'm going to be 55 in June, and so it's going to be a bit of a history if your listeners really want to know about it. My father brought me home comic books before I could read. So I had comic books since I can remember. And very, very lucky. I set up at my first Phil Suling show. It was a marketplace when I was 12 years old, but I was only able to afford half of a table. So I split it with my classmate, Ricky Feldman, and did some conventions and collected and kept trading. And I became one of the top collectors of high grade comics in the country, and I've owned 2 Action Ones, the church copies of which is a pedigree, the best known pedigree.
Edgar Church collection. That's
right.
Impressive.
Of Morphin 52, the first Spectre, and Flash #1, Flash Comics #1, and then in 1999. I was approached by the Certified Collectibles Group, and they wanted to start encapsulating comic books, which I thought was a crazy idea. It's like, this is not going to work. You can't put comic books in plastic. People want to read them. After a lot of discussions and the willingness on their part to make a holder that's tamper evident but openable, because people want to read their comics. They just wanted a buying and selling tool because people were getting ripped off like crazy on eBay, and books that were missing pages, or the married cover that was the wrong back cover to the book. The grading was atrocious on eBay. People were saying it was near mint and you get it in and it's like a VG. So we were
all over the place.
Right. We wanted to be like the good housekeeping seal of approval. And so you had your restoration check, the pages were counted. They made sure that if there was a married cover, that it was the right cover or the wrong cover. And so I spent a lot of time trying to sell certification to our hobby. And there was a lot of pushback at first. Some people who were my best friends were like, I'll never use that, and there was a lot of articles written back then about how they'll never use certification. Meanwhile, it ended up that, as you all know, that most people use certification for big books and for buying and selling online.
Right.
And it exploded. The first explosion was the Greg Manning auction in 2001, I think. And books just sold for crazy prices that we'd never seen before. And then Sotheby's followed suit. Jerry Wiest, who was a very, very good friend of mine and a mentor, he's one of the first in fandom, decided to actually use certification, and we sold Annie Gaines's Gaines file copies that William had left to her. And they went through the roof. She was ecstatic, and I guess the rest is kind of history. I got burnt out of grading, and just decided that I wanted to do something else. Went and became the senior consignment director at Heritage Auctions. At first, that was a little tough for me, but then I started bringing in large collections like the Maggie Thompson collection, the Doug Schmelpedigree.com collection, which sold for, I think, $4.2 million. I helped the Seamuses sell their art collection, which broke open the Todd McFarlane original art prices. I mean, it went for, you know, the one cover went for $600 and some odd $1,000. I mean, it was insane. We couldn't believe it. And then during the time that I had left CGC, and while I was working at Heritage, people kept trying to ask me to open up another grading service because monopolies are bad.
Right.
Nobody wants monopoly. But the problem was that the people who had the money to open it didn't want to wait 5 years for money to come in. They were like, well, you could sell grades. And I was like, no. You know, this has to be, you know, done straight. You know, the grade is the grade. You don't up a grade to make more money.
Right. There's something unethical about that.
Exactly. So I kept turning them down, but I liked free steak dinners. Believe me, it was great. You know, going out and getting a free steak. It's fantastic. And the people who wanted to do it that were honest, thought it would cost like $500,000, not like a couple of million to open a grading service. So I couldn't go with the honest people. And then one day I got a call from my partner, Michael Bornstein, really nice guy. We had spent lots of time on the phone, went to visit him and his son, and we sat for a weekend planning out how we would do this. He got the investors together, I got the team together, and we found the building, we found the plastics, and we did a lot of PR, and we opened up, and it took off much faster than I ever thought. It was overwhelming. It basically helped the hobby because now you have a choice of where to grade, and people like choices. And we went from being 6 employees at the beginning all the way up to 33 right now. It's been an incredible ride. I've been very, very, very blessed to be in this hobby. I've made more friends than I can tell you about, and learned from people like Bob Overstreet and Steve Jeffy and like I said, Jerry Wiest and Bruce Hamilton and all these people I looked up to as a teenager. It's fantastic. Just been very, very, very lucky, and I've worked on the grading guides and for Gemstone Overstreet, and so that's where I am today. And this week, of course, the announcement came out that Intrust Global, which is a worldwide company, a Fortune 500 company, which also owns Beckett. We did the merge with them, and I've been walking on air for a week. It's been a long process.
I can imagine, yeah.
And very, very happy now that we have these gigantic resources behind us. We can do so much now. It's just fantastic. And I've probably been talking for too long, so I'll let you ask some questions.
No, that's quite all right. That was a nice ride through history there, so that was good. Yeah, they also own, I believe it's Coinage, right? And Goodwin, which is vintage collectibles, right? So that's a nice portfolio to be a part of. It's pretty diverse.
It's fantastic. And the people are so nice. I can't believe it. I was against this when I first heard it, And then as I met the people and got to see Beckett's operations and dealt with the higher ups, I was just floored how this is, they're hobby friendly,
right?
Which is really important to me. And this is my hobby. This is where I live. I always joke that I'm going to die on the convention floor. And so, like I said, all week I've been getting, the phone hasn't stopped. Congratulations from all the top people in the hobby, and my texts haven't stopped and the emails haven't stopped. Okay. And I'm trying to grade while this is all going on. So I've been up quite late most nights, returning phone calls, especially to the West Coast, where I'm on the East Coast. So 1 o'clock in the morning, it's 10 o'clock there when I'm hanging up the phone.
Right. It's late. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it as cold? I'm here in Florida as well. I'm in Fort Lauderdale, and we had a cold front come through. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little cool tonight, but I like it. I'm actually outside on my lanai right now, and
nice.
I'm from New York originally, so the cold weather doesn't bother me very much. But I guess for Floridians, it is a bit cold, but it's paradise compared to New York right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been here for about 10 years, and I came from Massachusetts. Actually, Chris here is up Boston Chris, we call him. So, but even after 10 years, I still feel like haven't gotten quite used to the heat, especially. But when it's cold, I'm like, oh, I'm from New England, I can handle those. But today it hit me a little harder with the cold. So,
sure,
yeah,
sure. As we stay here, our body chemistry changes along with everything. But as you know, you guys are from the Northeast, so you know how cold it can get. So this is paradise.
Exactly right. Except for, and that actually brings me to a question I have for you, hurricanes. So we had Irma come through very recently. What was it like in the office leading up to the news? And then I know afterwards there were some, concerns, I guess, with the vault, and if that, because essentially the Hurricane Irma went right over St. Petersburg, right, where you're located.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like for you or for the office?
Well, we got the news. I care very much about my people. People count more than money at the end of the day. And so I told them that we're shutting down and to get out of Dodge, basically.
There you go.
And so what most people did was left Florida and went where they could. Some people did stay. What I did was I went to Heritage Auctions and I pre-screened books for grading. And my wife, Pam, she was entering books into the system from the white sheet, so we weren't completely shut down. But the office actually lost power for the phones and for the computer for a bunch of days. So that kind of hurt the business for a little bit. But the safe was built knowing that we live in Florida. Right. So I even brought my original artwork that I collect into the safe before I left town. There was no way, even if it was, category 5, that this safe was going to go away. The safe was built for housing Action Comics #1.
Has to be a Fort Knox, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we got very lucky, but I did not like the drive back and forth from Texas. That was, I drove straight back 21 hours.
Wow.
So I was overtired when I got back. And so I was up a bit. So I called into the office that Friday and payroll didn't hit because of the hurricane. So I was on the phone with the payroll company and the banks trying to get my people paid. So I actually got them paid the next Saturday, and instead of the next Wednesday, which what they kept trying to tell me it was going to be. So I was up for about 32 hours at that point.
Wow. That's a long time. You mentioned original art, right?
Sure.
Wanted to ask, and kind of curious. Full disclosure, we talked about this a little bit before, but I kind of want to hear you talk about it again. But
Sure.
in terms of your collecting, what you're collecting now, you told me that it's original comic art and I guess trade paperbacks or collected
Well,
editions.
I still read comic books.
Okay.
But I buy them in trade paperbacks because, or graphic novels, because I travel a lot. So the floppies are hard for me to travel with. And then I have to go to the store every week if I wanted to do that. And I don't have the time to go to the store every week, which I kind of miss. I really dug comic book day.
Fun being a Wednesday warrior.
Yeah. Well, I think when I was a kid, it was Tuesdays, I think. And then it changed over to Wednesdays. What I'm doing is, the reason I'm collecting original art is when we started certification, I sold my collection. And because I didn't want people to think that if I had a Superman 1 in 9.0, let's say, that I wouldn't give theirs a higher grade than mine. So I didn't want there to be any doubt in anybody's mind that I was completely impartial.
No conflict of interest.
Right. And so I started to dabble in original art, which is very murky waters compared to comic books. There's no price guide, really. I mean, Jerry Weiss put out a price guide, but it's more of a kind of lead you into the aspects of art.
Yeah, it must be tough, though, because, it's truly a one-of-a-kind piece, so it must be hard to put a value on it, right? I mean, I'm sure there are certain, ways to sort of rank it, but,
sure,
one of a kind, it's not like,
Right. Well, if you watch the auctions, that helps a lot. So if you watch Comic Link or Heritage, that helps quite a bit. Right now, I'm watching the Heritage auction. There's a page from X-Men 2 that I want. I already own a page from X-Men 2 that I got out of Heritage. And there's another page I'm watching. And if it doesn't go too high, which I'm hoping it doesn't, I'll be able to afford it. It's a really cool panel page of the Beast in the Danger Room. So it's really cool. And it takes me back to my childhood. But basically, Heritage leaves up all of their sales. So you can go back and track all of the original art sales and comic books too. You just have to join. It's free. And
Steve, what is your favorite piece? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, my favorite piece is nowhere near my most expensive. It's the first piece of art I ever bought. I bought it because I loved the comic. It's Starman #7, the cover for that by Tony Harris. It's mixed media, beautifully painted piece. I loved that series. And in 1994, I bought that piece of art and didn't buy another piece of art again until 1999. It hangs in my bedroom. I see it when I wake up in the morning. I see it before I go to sleep at night. And it's just a beautiful image. If you get a chance, check out Starman #7. It's just a great, and if you've never read the series, or if the listeners have never read the series, if you're a fan of DC Comics, and especially the Gold and Silver and Age, it incorporates everything into a modern age. It's just unbelievable. Very, very great storyline. But then again, I also have a Neil Adams page from Superman vs. Muhammad Ali, which I bought as a kid, and I just love looking at. And Neil Adams is a great friend of mine, but he's also one of the greatest artists we've ever seen in our hobby.
Oh, absolutely. The Starman, is that the one where he's sitting down on the rock?
No, it's the one where he's holding the rod, standing up, and there's the Carney people around him.
I see it. Okay.
Right. It's really neat because people come to my house and they don't know it's a comic book cover. They think it's just a piece of art that looks basically Art Deco. So that's really kind of cool too, because it's a crossover. It's not, it's not just comic people who like it. It's people who don't know anything about comic books love it. So that's a really cool piece. But like I said, I own a page from X-Men 2 by Jack Kirby, and oh boy, I just picked up an Alex Ross cover, which I'm really, really, really happy I own an Alex Ross piece. I think Alex is a phenomenal, phenomenal artist. It was the cover for The Torch, #4. And it's got the Submariner in his disco outfit and all these Atlanteans coming out of the water, and the water is fiery red because the sun's setting, and it's just a beautiful piece. If you ever get a chance, check it out. It's called The Torch #4. It was a limited series.
Nice. I'm gonna have to check that out right after this. That sounds pretty neat. So let's ask a couple of questions here about the actual merger, or you want to call it a merger or acquisition? I don't know what would be the most appropriate term there.
Probably an acquisition.
Okay.
Is probably the best way to put it. So I'm still president of the company. I still the director of grading, and still grade all the books that are very valuable. I still grade moderns as well when we need it. But we're so busy right now that I'm spending most of my time on vintage. We're very, very busy. I cannot believe how busy we are. We're always looking to hire. So if any of your listeners are looking for a gig, they've
been asking in the chat. Yeah, and they've been asking too. So
you outsource up north, you let me know, because I would love to do that.
You come down south.
I wish.
But so yeah, this was like I mentioned to you, a year in the making. There was a lot of negotiations going on, but what was great was that they didn't want to change CBCS, except for the better. They liked the way it was run. They liked the product. They liked the fact that we were hobby friendly and not just some corporate entity, and that the fact that we, of course, hire hobby friendly people and hobbyists. And like I would say my second in command and the, I guess, heir apparent to if I drop dead tomorrow, Wes Steffen is a major player in comics, very knowledgeable, knows more about pedigrees and restoration than most people I've ever met in my life. And he's just an all-around great guy. And I think people have gravitated towards us because we're hobby friendly and we're fan friendly. Mm-hmm. And we love the comics.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing that definitely sets CBCS apart is, at least in my experience, the connection with the customer base. I always, people have questions or, quote unquote concerns, and they're always addressed in one way or another. It seems like, whether it's on the forum itself or, social media or what have you, that those concerns and those questions are actually heard. And that speaks a lot. The fact that you're here with us right now, that really speaks a lot to the connection with the fans and with your customers. So that absolutely sets you apart from competition, right?
Well, thank you. I think that is a really big compliment.
It is, yeah.
It's a bit humbling too. But so basically, like I said, they really dug the way we were doing things. But what they can bring to the table is fantastic. We will now be able to move forward with the census, the collector's sets, the point system. For every $1 you spend, you get frequent flyer points. And we'll be able to make the magazine holder because the tooling costs are very expensive.
Very nice.
I'm very, very excited about all this. Plus, my people get treated really well. That was one of my biggest concerns, was the employees. They're like family to me. As a matter of fact, I bought tickets for everybody who wanted to go for a concert tomorrow night. Not with the company's money, but with my own. I wanted to thank everybody for everything. And so we're all going to go out and have a nice time after we finish the day of grading. And luckily it's a Friday night, so we get to sleep in on Saturday.
Nice. Yeah, no, that'll be fun. I think that's huge news for a lot of people. Two things you just said, and I'll just kind of underscore them. But you said magazine holders, and you said census. Those are two things that people have been asking for a bit of time now, and to hear that is phenomenal. I think that's going to be huge. Yeah,
I think so too. We had a lot of problems with our web designer, and if you know much about web design, and it's a very complicated system that we have, from the grading to, you know, all the inner workings, customer service, tracking the books through the system. Everything's barcoded, everything's done blind, so you have to make sure everything's in the right place. And and then there's the web, our website, right? And we had a lot of problems with the programmers we hired, and now we're going to be able to use the shared resources that they bring to the table, and we'll be able to fix all of this, which is fantastic. And it'll take me off of certain things. I can interact more with the collecting community, which is very good, and it gives me more time for grading, and I don't have to worry about certain things.
Yeah, no, that'll be fantastic. Another question we had was around raw grading. Will that continue, or kind of what's the outlook for that moving forward?
Sure, as long as there's people who want it, we'll continue with that. It's basically a buying and selling tool for brick and mortar stores, and it's a quick grade. But this way, there's no argument between the seller and the buyer at the local comics shop, because the owner didn't grade it, we did. The only difference between the raw grade and the certified grade is that the raw grade is cheaper, and that the more expensive aspect is the encapsulated books, but there is a heavy duty restoration check, and the pages are, you know, really looked through and for any defects whatsoever. But once again, the raw grade is a nice little niche for the brick and mortar stores, so they don't have to sit there and say, I think it's a 8.5, and the person buying it says, well, I think it's a 7.0, and it just makes it easier for them to sell the books.
One of the things I wanted to ask you was, as far as the raw grading is concerned, I know that one of the issues, and this was a while ago, so I don't know what you guys have done since then, but I know one of the issues was that the shipping for the raw was the same price as the slab book. Is that still the same, or has that changed?
Well, the reason shipping is so expensive is because of insurance more than anything else. So if you insure a book for $400, we have to pay insurance on that.
Okay.
It's not so much that the shipping was expensive, but insurance is expensive. And you want to insure your books, and we send out everything, you know, direct signature required, which costs money. You don't want just signature required, and you don't want no signature required. You want the books to make it into the hands of the person who sent it to you. It's very, very important. So I think it's still, I think it is a little cheaper to ship out the raw grade, but once again, it's the insurance that makes it expensive.
Okay.
All right. So I think Chris had meant, or no, somebody in the chat said he wants a job with you in California. So, well, that's will you have offices anywhere else to be able to send? Will there be other sites to submit to, or?
Well, there's always that possibility. One of the things that we want is consistency. So if your team is in one place, you have consistent grading, or as consistent as possible. Basically, you want to always be in the strike zone. So if somebody sends in a book that they think is a 6.0 and they know how to grade, you want to make sure it comes back a 5.5, 6, or 6.5, right? You want to be right in the strike zone.
Right.
If you split up grading teams across the country, one grading team might hit foxing, which is if you don't know what foxing is, it's an inert mold. You'll see it on books. It's like a brown spotting.
Yeah.
So they might be a little tougher on it than the other team. And that could actually change the way one person gets a 7.5, one person gets an 8, and yet they look the same. So we try to keep it in one place. Now, that's not to say that there won't be satellite offices in the future. Because what I would do is I would go and spend a week at one area or a week in another area and travel back and forth, working on the grading, still grading the high-end books and training all the graders to grade our way, or Wes Stefan would go out and train them. You know, we both train them on restoration, detection, all of that kind of stuff. But what you want is to have the best experts you can have. And it's hard to hire graders. It's not easy. And we try to train from within. So we hire somebody who knows enough about comic books, whether it's Golden Age, Silver Age, Modern Age, Bronze Age. We don't really do a lot of platinum. It's a small market. And we don't do undergrounds. Some of the earliest undergrounds you have a real hard time figuring out which is the first print, second print, third print, and a lot of mistakes can be made. And we don't want to make mistakes, so we just don't do them. It's a very small niche, and it's a really cool niche, but we want to keep our reputation solid. We don't want to send out a second print as a third print or a third print as a second print. But sorry, I guess I'm digressing here. But once again, there could be a chance for satellite offices. It would just take a lot of time and effort to do. So right now, we're just sticking with the core group and adding to it and training as we go.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, that would be something kind of further down the road. You know, it kind of makes sense. I was thinking more of, continuity of business, right? If there was another, God forbid, another hurricane, but, you might have, I don't know, just kind of thinking long term there.
Sure.
But,
no, it makes sense. I mean, it's always good to look to the future. But like you're saying about the hurricane, 98% of our customers understood that this was an act of God, right? There's nothing we could have done about it. We're lucky that, our houses are standing. We also, right before that, had a problem because our plastics come from Houston. And that, of course, they got hit really hard. A month before we got hit, or 3 weeks before we got hit. And so we were down because our plastics didn't ship. So most people have been really, really cool. You always have one or two people or a small percentage that are not going to be cool about it. And I understand. I mean, they spent money and they want their books back, but they're safe with us. But people need their books to buy and sell, so they have to make a living too. So I understand that sometimes a holdup can hurt their business. But there's nothing we can do about hurricanes and tornadoes or anything like that. Just part of life.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, if you're in that area, it's not like you can go out and stop it. So, So you were talking about kind of the time frame there. Actually, we had a couple questions around turnaround times.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that? And I mean, I don't know exactly what it is right now, but it's a few weeks now. So are there plans to kind of bolster the staff to kind of move things through the process a little bit?
Yes, it's not just the staff, though. Like I said, we were shut down for a while.
Right.
Because of the plastic situation, and then, of course, the hurricane. Well, actually, both hurricanes, I should say. Yeah. But we're working as hard as we can to catch up, but we also weren't expecting to be this busy at this time. And like I said earlier, we want the books graded correctly. We don't want to just throw bodies at books and say, here, throw a grade on it, will you? That's not what the hobby needs. The hobby needs somebody who's helping to protect them. And so a longer turnaround time which we're trying to get down and we're actually making headway, is inevitable when you have bumps in the road, or you take a few punches, if you will. But once again, with the acquisition, we'll have more resources, and so that will help quite a bit. I hope that helps answer the question.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. So thank you for that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Now, another question we had was around the slab itself, and specifically the labeling for it. Will that change at all? I mean, are you going to include the name Beckett or Beckett Media or Entrust at all, or will it be?
Maybe the back label might say something about being part of the global group. I'm not sure yet, but they did not want to change CBCS. We have a very good name, and they're, like I said, these people are smart. This is a Fortune 500 company. This is not some rinky-dink outfit, right?
Exactly.
They don't want to reinvent the wheel. They want to help us build a better car, and they're so open to ideas and being hobby friendly and everything that like I said, I've been walking on air since the agreement's been signed. And I know that the turn times will get down, and like I said, there's people I know that couldn't care less how long the books take because it's just going to sit in their collection. But then there's the people who buy and sell for a living, and we don't want to hurt their living, so we want to get them the books back as quick as possible. It's the reason I've worked 2 weeks as of Saturday when I have my day off when it's my granddaughter. I'll work 2 days straight. 2 weeks straight. Did I say 2 days?
Yes, 2 days.
2 weeks straight. And that was with a 27-hour trip to Oklahoma and back for OFCON. So we're really trying very hard to make sure that the turnaround times get caught up. But if you remember, or if you did not know, at one point when I was working for our distinguished competition, we were 9 months behind.
Wow.
And that was incredible. And I was working weekends and I was working nights, and the team was working very hard, and we just were the only game in town at that point. And it was like a rush to get books. So people were waiting 9 months, and now people are like, well, I gotta wait 3 months. That's crazy. I'm thinking, wow, I'd rather wait 3 than 9, but I also understand their frustration.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But, it's one of those things that we are going to work very hard to make sure that we're on time or close to it.
All right, very good. Can you tell us a little bit about the restoration detection process? I mean, how does that look?
Well,
obviously not specifics.
No, I mean, I don't mind specifics at all.
Okay.
But you have to know what you're looking for. I got ripped off big time when I was younger, and I decided not to get ripped off again. So I studied it. I was also very lucky because my dad owned a printing business. So when I was young, I worked in the printing business, so I understand paper and manufacturing of paper and printing. And there's certain ways to detect cleaning. There's certain ways to detect small amounts of reinforcement at the staple, and you have to be very, very good at this. It's I can't stress enough that you really need to study this if you're going to buy raw books. And we check every page to see if there's piece replacement. Today I did a book that had the wrong back cover. So you have to know the books themselves. It was restored, but they married the back cover, and it was the wrong book. It was a Detective 29. And that's worth a lot of money. And if it's the wrong back cover, it's worth a lot less.
Right.
So I don't know if it's going to be a surprise to the person who sent it in, or if they already knew. And maybe they knew and were hoping we wouldn't catch it. We look for color touch, but then there's things that once you know what you're looking for, it jumps right out at you. I mean, I can hold a book in my hand if it's a Silver Age book, and I can say, wow, it feels like it's missing a page.
Oh, wow.
And boom, it is. And same thing with the restoration. I can look at a book in a Mylar, and so he's handing it to me. I'm like, yeah, that's color touched, because I can see the difference. But I've been doing this for a long, long time. And same thing with Wes Steffen and also other people in our grading team. It's a very, very detailed, painstaking process to go through every page of a book and look for restoration. People are very, very sneaky. There's one submitter who puts little tiny pieces of tape that you can almost never see unless you're really looking closely for it. We found a 90 book order with these tiny pieces of tape, and it's incredible what people will try to do when there's money at stake. There's always going to be somebody who's going to try to get over the system.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't stop that, because people, there's certain people who are greedy and they don't care about other people and they don't care about our hobby. We try to stop that. Once again, it goes back to being the good housekeeping seal of approval.
Yeah, and actually to piggyback off that, that's actually one of the things that I appreciate about you guys, because I remember, both companies were actually kind of getting just a little bit carried away, with all the submissions and stuff like that. And then I know that both of you guys kind of scaled back and really started getting a little stricter with grading. And I really appreciate that, because even though you did mention that things can be not that it's slow, but you would rather focus on quality over quantity, so to speak. Right. I actually have a lot of appreciation for that, because I would rather have my books come back as strict and well graded as possible versus somebody just pushing stuff through. Now, I will say this: I'm not really have any loyalties toward either company. I'll use both, but I've just, for whatever reason, I've just been with CBCS for the past year and a half, and I'm comfortable with you guys, so I'm going to continue to use you guys.
Well, thank you. But it's okay if people like Pepsi and Coca-Cola, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. If you see a book in a holder, and it's the book you've been looking for forever, because half the fun of our hobby is the hunt, right? Mm-hmm. And you see a Superman 47 that you've been looking for, and you wanted it in anything over a 7.0, and you see it, right? And you want it unrestored, or you want a restored copy, whatever, it doesn't matter. But mm-hmm. you've now found it. Doesn't matter which case you buy, if it's CGC or CBCS. Mm-hmm. I think we're better, but that's because I'm biased.
Yeah, no, I agree. One of the questions I have personally is, did Beckett acquire 100%, or do you guys still have some control? Or because it was just rumored out there that I'd heard that just majority of CBCS was sold, but not the entire thing. Is that correct or no?
No, we actually were acquired by Beckett.
Okay.
But what they do is they let you retain the positions that you're in. They don't want to change it. Mm-hmm. And my percentage of the company and all that is still there. I'm still president of the company. I'm still the head of grading. The primary grader, I should say. Mm-hmm. I'm the one along with Wes Steffen, who's training everybody and moving it forward. But
no, I believe you. I was told you graded one of my books. I had an amazing, really? Yeah, an amazing 300. It was riding on that 9.6, 9.8 line.
Oh, and really?
So I heard you actually hit it. I got a 9.6, but it was correct.
Hey, okay.
I was upset at first, but when I looked, when I looked, I was like, they were right. So,
that's why we give the graders notes out for free. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in charging for graders notes, and that's one of the arguments I had with CGC. And after I left, of course, they started charging for graders notes. I believe that if you went to let's say you took your car into the mechanic And they said, okay, it's all fixed. Give me $1,000. And you say, what did you do? And they said, well, you have to pay me extra for that. I think that I'd go crazy. So if it's under a 9.8, we give grader's notes, and you can scan the QR code on the back of the label with your phone, and at that point it'll bring up the grader's notes. Or if you don't have the book in front of you, let's say it's on eBay or it's at Heritage or ComicLink or wherever, you can take the number, the serial number, and you can plug it into our website, and it'll bring up the grader's notes for you for free.
Yeah, I absolutely love that about you guys as well. I completely agree with you that shouldn't be charged. To piggyback off what I just asked you, I'm going to ask this last question. I'm going to shut up because I know some other guys got some things they want to ask. And you said pretty much already repetitively that Beckett just wants you to continue to do your thing. But I've been asked a couple of times in the chat, are there any big changes that we can expect from Beckett?
Well, yes. And some of the things I mentioned, I mean, the shared resources is going to be gigantic. Once again, we'll have plastics that we order together, so we'll never run out. So there's, like, if there's a hurricane in Houston, we're not going to be worried that we're not going to get plastics for 3 weeks. Once again, their IT departments, where the census and the population report, which I think CGC calls the registry, right? Things like that. Once again, the magazine holder, they have incredible engineers and who are really, really excited about working on the holder and maybe even making it better. But not just that, but making a magazine holder. And so we're looking always to change, but change for the better. Never change for the worse, or never cutting corners. And what they don't want us to cut corners. They want to give us the help we need to move much, much, much more forward than we ever could have in a year. It probably would take 5 years to get where we're going to go in a year. And this is fantastic for the community, and it's fantastic for us.
100%, it really is. It positions you strategically in a corporate structure much similar to the competition, and gives you all those resources, the reach, the just the means to really be that much more competitive. You know what I mean? So
absolutely,
yeah.
And we even without those resources, we become a heavy force into the hobby. And we're getting in, I just did an Action 1 restored yesterday, and it was beautiful. We're getting in really big books. I did a bunch of Gaines File copies the other day, and they're just so beautiful. If you've never seen a Gaines File copy, most DCs look beat up and like dull. These look like they came off the press.
Oh, wow.
We've been, like I said, I've been very, 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 very blessed by the hobby and their support. It's incredible. And they wouldn't support us if they didn't think we were doing a good job, I guess. I can't imagine anybody using us that doesn't think we're doing a good job.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense, would it?
No.
So I have another question for you.
Sure.
I think it came from the chat. So Beckett has Beckett Authentication services. They do their own, verification of signatures, and obviously CBCS does as well. Are those going to remain two separate entities, or is there plans to kind of merge those two services together?
You know what? That's something I'm not 100% sure of. I know that we're still using CSA, which is a separate company from us.
Right.
So we pay them. They're experts in authentication of comic book signatures, comic book creators' signatures, I should say. And the people at Beckett's, I think, are sports.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about that yet. I'm just trying to be very, very honest with you all. But as it stands right now, looks like there's no change right now. And we're very happy with CSA. They're very professional. They're really easy to work with, and we don't mind them making their money. They do a great job, and it's really taken off. We did a Batman one signed by Bob Kane just recently. Wow. And it's been fantastic. It's been a very good relationship. So I'm hoping that we don't lose them. I don't think we will, but you don't know what the future will bring. I hope that helps a little.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Got a question from our chat here. On average, how many books can one person grade in a day?
Wow. It really depends on the books. So I was talking about the Detective 29 that I did.
Mm-hmm.
We had to look up the back cover to make sure it was correct. We had to make sure that the interiors were all done. So that book could take 10 minutes.
Gotcha.
Then again, I'll get in a, I don't know, what's really hot modern right now. It's a 9.8. It takes me no time to grade that.
Okay. Yeah, that would be kind of my other question. Do you have, I don't know how your system is worked out. Do you have, people kind of spread out? Like you have people that are just specifically like, they're trained up on modern books. You have people that are trained up on silver, have that separated, or is everybody grade everything?
No, we have certain people who are just modern. We have certain people who are modern and vintage.
Nice.
I come in on a Sunday and I'll knock out a bunch of moderns if we're behind on moderns.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I don't, it's not something that I really should be doing, but because of the turn times, I'm doing it.
Right.
Everybody needs to pitch in. I'm maybe the president of the company, but I'm also the head bottle washer, right?
Right. Exactly. That the attitude that you need to have in a business. So.
Right, but we do also have a modern finalizer, Daniel Ertl. He's incredible. He's really, really good. And then we have the people who put the data in for the moderns, something I don't know about, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't always know the story arc because I read the trades. And so I'm anywhere from 6 to 18 months behind on my reading. It doesn't feel like it anymore because I get the trades as they come out now. But I don't know if there's a Penguin appearance in this Batman book. I don't know if there's a Vision appearance in this Captain America comic, right? And they input the data of the artists, the writers, the key comments, such as Vision appearance or wedding of so-and-so, whatever it is that needs to be on the label.
Nice. Gotcha.
Actually, talking about the label, Captain Mike here in the chat had a question for you. He said, kind of right around 2001, 2000-ish is kind of when, I guess, newsstand editions became less prevalent, right? Especially, right. I think it was like 2008 maybe when Marvel stopped with the newsstand market and just did direct sales and the scholastic side of things. Is there any plans to indicate on the label at any point in time that it is a newsstand edition, especially for those moderns? Like I know,
actually, it's funny. We started that a few months ago.
Okay,
maybe 6 months ago. I'm not sure. Time is with all the projects that we've done. Time doesn't always work for me. It could have been 4 months ago, could have been 6 months ago, but we actually do put newsstand edition or direct edition on these modern comics.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. And I have another question here from Matt Howlett is his name. He said that he saw you recently in Norman, Oklahoma at one of the conventions, like last week
at OakCon.
Yeah,
sure.
There you go. He says it was awesome, probably the best convention he ever went to. So, I mean, did you like it that much?
Yeah, it was its 50th year. It's still in a ballroom of a hotel. And people who have been in the hobby for a long time, even longer than me, show up. And I learn a lot, and I get to mingle with true collectors and look at original art and look at comic books. And people would ask me to look at books for restoration for them, or if it's worth grading, because there's certain books that aren't worth grading. I'm very honest with people. I'd rather them save the money and buy a comic book than waste money on certification if the book isn't worth certifying. So if you have a Spider-Man 300 and 2.5, right, there's no reason to grade that book. You might as well just buy some other comics too. For the price of certification, you could probably get a better copy, right?
Right.
But yeah, that was a great convention. I had to leave early because I had meetings, and that convention is a busman's holiday for me. I get to be a fanboy, and nice. It's really fun. Really fun. It's just a great convention. If anybody gets to go next year, I would suggest it. But it's not this giant convention with media guests or anything like that. It's people selling pulp magazines and original comic art and comic books, and a lot of them are not graded by either company. There's a lot of the books are raw, and we get to sit and talk, and there's great panels. Roger Hill did one about fanzines, which were a huge part of the beginning of our hobby, and it's just a fantastic time. If anybody ever gets a chance, I would suggest going to the show, but it's not going to be one of these giant conventions that people are used to.
Okay, sounds like fun.
Yeah. Well, that's what we've always preached anyways. The $5 and $10 conventions are the best ones to go to.
Yeah. Actually,
strictly comics, you know.
It was free this year because it was the 50th anniversary. This is the longest running convention in the country. In 50 years, think about that.
That's crazy.
I mean, I was 4 years old when it started. It's incredible.
Wow.
And we're very lucky to have a hobby like this. I can't preach enough about it.
I saw 2 questions in the chat that I thought were kind of interesting. Just wanted to bring up to you.
Sure.
So the first one is kind of a, I guess more of a personal preference question, but would be, what kind of music do you listen to while you're grading? Like is it have like your own like little routine and stuff that you got to do, or is it just kind of like, just kind of pop on the radio and then just go at it? Like how do you go?
No, absolutely not popping on the radio. I like the flow of an entire album. Once again, I'm old, right? And so I grew up listening to vinyl, right? And you would listen to the entire album. And so I'm also a huge Grateful Dead fan. When I'm grading by myself, I like to put on a Grateful Dead live concert, whether it's from 72 or 85 or 91 or whatever. But I listen to everything from Elvis Costello, Talking Heads, Decemberists, anything that makes me happy and that's enjoyable to listen to helps me grade. I can sit there and get into the zone and just have this music playing. Now, of course, you're in a grading room, so some people don't always like my music, right? And they'll put in an earbud, and I play my music low, so they can put in an earbud and listen to their music as well. And then there's days when other people pick music. But when I'm grading by myself, I'm always putting on full albums.
That's pretty cool. And then the second question was just kind of again just one that kind of just speaks to grading in general, which is you know, have you ever had a moment where basically you kind of had to like just step away, maybe feel a little burnout after trying to grade a book, and it's just like, you know what, I'm just not feeling it today. Let me just take a step back and you know, just kind of, you know, maybe put the book to the side and just kind of move on to something different, or like, you know what I mean, like if you've ever been grading something that maybe is a little bit tough and you spent like, I guess, more time than you'd like. Have you ever had to just kind of step away from it and then just move to something different? Or
Oh, absolutely. We encourage people to take breaks. I mean, you're working with your eyes, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you want to step away. So we make sure that people take their breaks, take their lunches. What I do is I grade until I feel a little bit like where, okay, you know, I'm not at my top. And so I'll take a break. I might actually hop on a website, look at some original comic art, or I'll clear my eyes and go outside for a little bit and make a phone call, because then I have to return, you know, I can't stop grading when the phone rings or I get a text message. And I'll return the call to a client at that point. But you cannot sit for 8 hours and just grade. That's bad grading.
I think even the Overstreet,
yeah,
I think even Overstreet talks about that, not grading for long periods of time.
Right, and it's very, very important. So that's why I'm not a big fan of on-site grading. I think it burns out your graders, and you have to hustle too much. And I force them to take their breaks because they're very dedicated. But they need to take breaks. But people are, if it's on-site grading, people are waiting for their books, and they're like, "Oh, when am I getting it back? When am I getting it back?" You know?
yeah.
But you do need to walk away, and you need to clear your mind, you need to clear your eyes, and you start again. And it might only be a 5-minute break or a 15-minute break or a lunch break. I don't take lunch. It's very rare, unless it's a business meeting, or once, you know, every 2 weeks I take an employee out for lunch as a thank you, or if it's a new employee, get to know you type lunch. But I really don't take, you know, a half hour, 45-minute lunch or anything like that. But I make sure that my employees do. It's very, very important.
I have a question. I used to be into sports cards before I got into comic books, so I've actually had the experience of submitting cards to get graded to Beckett. I think another thing I can recall with that experience is that they are strict as well, even with their cards, because they grade the surface, the edges, the side.
Sure, and they also look for trimming and pressing, and things like that, right?
Yep.
Where pressing is okay in the comic book hobby, but it's not okay in cards, I think. I'm not big enough on cards. So.
I've heard that they're starting to get into it, as well as pressing when you got toys, the cards that the toys come on. Some people are starting to do that now, but since you brought that up, people have been asking in the chat about the pressing, because if you've been acquired by Beckett, and I know you guys want to expand to get larger, does that include your pressing service as well? Because I do pressing here, and I know that it can be very it can be time consuming depending on how bad a particular book is.
Sure. Well, we have an in-house presser, Steve Borock, who's very, very, very good. But you have to be very careful. We see so much bad pressing. You mentioned that you press, right?
Yes, sir.
I think about how many books you had to ruin before you got to the point where you can press the book correctly.
Yeah.
Right. So people have to be very careful. They can't just go, I saw a video on YouTube and I bought a press and I'm going to press these books, because we hit them and we lower the grade, even though they look good. That's why there's a check mark next to the grade sometimes.
Yeah.
The check mark says, check the notes, because the book looks better in the holder than what it is. And
I actually like that.
We see square bounds that are now are now sloped like a regular small, thin comic book, or we
Because they
see
flattened
really,
it.
yeah, we see, or we see
Yeah.
horrible erasure marks on the back cover or the front cover that you wouldn't be able to see through a holder. And most people that don't know comics wouldn't even notice that it's been dry cleaned badly or pressed badly, and then the books are warped if they're pressed badly, if they didn't sit long enough after the pressing, or
Yes.
I don't know how to press, so I'm not trying to give advice. I'm just trying to say that you stick with the pressers that are well known if you're going to do it, and that have a good track record. I've seen, we tried to hire a bunch of people who press books that got great reviews on Facebook and stuff like that, and they were terrible. They were destroying books, and after a week, I was like, I'm sorry, but your books are flaring open, your books are warping, you're taking ink off of the books, or pages are sticking together, or you didn't notice that this book has a digital sticker in it, and you press that in, that there's no way they'll ever get it out, and now there's a big indent in that digital sticker in the last few pages in the back cover.
You're absolutely right though, because every press is going to eventually ruin a book here and there, and it's better obviously to ruin his own books and get a bunch of stuff out of the quarter bin or something like that than somebody else's book. But it does happen, because all the things you're talking about, I've actually experienced mostly just messing up books, the modern stuff, because of the zinc and the ink that are in the pages. They get hot and it causes the pages to stick together.
Absolutely.
And obviously there's a certain way that you go about doing that, but maybe I can shoot you some of my information after the show in case you need any help. But anyways,
oh yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for ways to better our company.
But a lot of guys did ask about the pressing, and they were just curious about how that's going to affect the merger, or how the merger is going to affect that.
Well, it shouldn't affect it at all. But if it does, it's because we'll have found a better way of doing things. We want to keep in-house pressing. We want it done right. We want it done professionally. And we want to make sure that books are not ruined.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think if anything, it will improve things, because you could probably add a few, folks.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Absolutely. But they have to know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I have another question from the chat here. Going back to what you were mentioning earlier about the magazines, is there, and I know that you still, like you were saying, probably haven't even designed those yet, but is there a timetable on when you would like to see those out to the market?
Yesterday. But actually, to tell you the truth, we haven't discussed it yet. I will probably meet with designers and our parent company now, and discuss when to move forward with it and how to move forward with it.
Gotcha.
Remember, we've been married, if you will, for 4 days. Okay.
Right.
So there's a lot to go through, but they're so excited that I've been infected by the excitement. And
oh yeah.
I'm jaded. Trust me. I have been working in this hobby for a long time.
Right.
And I am, like I said, I've been walking on air, for better lack of words. But they, like I said, they really want to move it forward. So they want to move forward as fast as possible, but they're smart. They want to do it right.
Right.
So if it takes a little longer, it makes more sense, because you don't want to put out a product that will eventually, hurt a book or
right.
or be bad. I mean, look, our competition put out that new holder, and it was destroying books. They had to recall the books and everything, and it was a shame. I mean, as a collector, I was, I was sad for them, because I don't want to see books ruined, and I don't want to see bad holders, and I don't want to see people owning bad holders. We don't want to rush anything. We want to make sure that it's done right.
Definitely. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. And like you were saying, this is just, with the marriage here, just the buzz of potential possibilities is really lit up everybody. So it's really exciting.
The possibilities are endless. And because these people are so good, and you don't become a Fortune 500 company by ruining things when you acquire them. You become a Fortune 500 company by making them better.
Exactly. Making them add to what you already are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Very cool. We actually have another question here from the chat. It comes from Rebel Comics. He actually is a creator. He has his own independent comic book.
Oh, cool.
So he was asking what would be the criteria for the independent books. Is there sort of a, I don't know what the criteria for whether it can be slabbed or whether it won't be?
I'm not sure I understand the question, because we do a lot of independents. The only thing that we don't certify is books that are easily reproducible. So Erie #1, let's say, right? That's you could take it to a Kinko's and make copies. So we don't do that book. It's once again, it's like the Underground. We don't want to get it wrong. So we will not certify that. Okay. But if it's comic stock, and it's just like any other comic book, we'd be more than happy to certify them.
Right.
We don't just look at Marvel and DC or Image or Aftershock or whatever. We do all the books. We just had some independent artists and writers with their new books at New York with us. It just depends on the book. I mean, if you're going to put it on just plain paper and you're going to go to your local, FedEx office, whatever it's called these days, right? And you can run it off on that. It's easily reproducible. We don't want to do it.
Right. And you said earlier it has to somewhere indicate, or you be able to tell what printing it is, like first print, second print, right?
Right, exactly.
So that's important to it as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I do this myself, but I know there's quite a few people with similar questions around the authorized witness program. Are there any changes coming around that? Maybe fees, or is that something that's
well, right now there's no plans to change it except grow it.
Okay.
That's a great program, by the way.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, people are very happy. Though it was really funny. I had dinner with Neil Adams about a couple of months ago at C2E2. And no, not C2E2, Baltimore. And sorry, it's hard to keep all the conventions straight. Mark Nathan puts on a great Baltimore show. And Neil was saying it's funny how people are coming to him with a book in a Mylar with a window cut out of it and handing him a marker, right? And he's like, but I'm the artist. He goes, I should know where it's best to sign and with what color to sign it with. And I was laughing. I was like, Neil, you're getting paid $50 a signature. Sign wherever the guy wants you to sign.
Right.
And then Neil, of course, gave me a dirty look and said, but I'm the artist,
He makes a point.
He's a very, very, very nice guy. And like I said, also, he's, one of the top artists we've ever seen in our hobby.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Oh, yeah.
Living legend.
Yeah. He's always wearing that blue shirt.
Yes, he is. We were saying that a couple of weeks ago. Like, next time we go, I'm going to pay for, a picture, and I'm going to bring him another shirt.
Yeah, and I have a blue shirt like his, so I make sure that whenever we're going to have dinner, I don't wear that shirt then.
Nice.
That's Neil's signature shirt. I shouldn't take away from it.
It wouldn't be Neil without the blue shirt, right?
Absolutely. And like I said, him and Marilyn and their kids are just fantastic people. I'm very lucky to have met all these artists and writers and creators. And it's just been a fantastic ride for a fanboy. And it's just great. I mean, I've become great friends with not as big of an artist as Neil, of course, but Stuart Sager. I don't know if you know his work. And he's a fanboy as well. So we kind of geek out together, even though I'm geeking out over his artwork. But we're geeking out over talking about, you know, Terrific Number 5 or something like that. It's really cool.
Nice. One thing I wanted to make sure that because I don't know how much time we have here, but I want to make sure that we talk about this is the Hero Initiative. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Very important, very near and dear, I know, to your heart. I see it all the time, you know, in Artist Alley, people have out, you know, they say free signature, but donate to Hero Initiative. Just kind of want to share your thoughts on that. I have a link there in the description, folks. So definitely check it out. If you can't or don't have a way, or, you know, the means, unfortunately, to donate, there's another way you can help participate, which is volunteering. There's a whole section on there for your regional kind of volunteer coordinators, and you can reach out to them and still be able to be a part of this. But can you talk a little bit about Hero Initiative?
Sure. It's, once again, like you mentioned, it's very near and dear to my heart. I believe in charity, big time. I think that if I ever needed it, I would probably take it. So I believe that I should work towards helping charities now, right? And if I never need it, great. That's a wonderful thing.
Right.
But if you would take it, then you should give, right? And the Hero Initiative was originally called ACTOR, Commitment to Our Roots, but it was a terrible, terrible name to promote itself, right? And it was started by James McLaughlin and Mark Alessi, and but on the board is George Perez and Roy Thomas and all these great people. I'm on the board of directors for helping bring money in. So once again, I'm in a position where I get to meet all these great creators. But what we do is we raise money to help the creators in need. And because most of these creators that are getting older or that are young and fall on hard times need money, but especially the older creators, because they couldn't sell their original art. It got destroyed or whatever. And back in the day, you didn't get paid for a signature. When I was getting Jack Kirby and Stan Lee signatures when I was young, they were free. They were just happy to have somebody come up to them and tell them they loved their work.
Oh,
and it was fascinating because there was no giant lines, and you could actually talk to Jack Kirby and hear stories, and you could talk to Stan and hear stories, and you can go up to somebody who was just starting out. Let's say it was a Frank Bruner, right, in the 70s, and you could sit and talk about, you know, his work on Doctor Strange and all this great stuff. So what we do is we take the money in, and we only have 2 employees that we pay, and they don't earn a lot of money. The office is the coffee shop around the corner. So the money actually gets the creators. We pay for their hospital stays, we pay for their housing, we pay for food, anything that they need, because they're broke. And it's horrible that they're broke when their artwork is selling for, you know, $100,000 for a piece of art, or the comic books that they help create are selling for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, right?
Right.
It's very important to me to give back to the hobby that has treated me so well. And I hope that everybody in our hobby could at least donate $1. You know, if everybody did that, then we wouldn't have to worry, right?
Actually, Steve, I'm actually working on something with that. When I get my books back from CBCS, I have actually a plan, and these guys on the panel, they already know all about it, in which we're going to work together as a community and actually donate a lot of money to the Hero Initiative Fund.
Wow.
I hope to at least, I mean, I don't know how much it, you know, because it's going to be, books are going to be auctioned off, and 100% of the books, or 100% of the money that the books are auctioned off at will go to the Hero Initiative Fund. And
that's so kind of you. That's so nice.
Yeah, let me get the books back, because what I wanted to do was I wanted to get it done before Christmas, but I don't think that's going to happen, especially with everything that's been going on, which is fine because I can always postpone it, and this is something I would hope to do at least annually. But if I could, at least maybe get an email from you or something like that, just because I would like at least for you to know about it, because I think it's going to. I've actually already called the Hero Initiative and talked to, I forget her name. It was a
Christina.
Yeah, Christina. Yeah, I talked to her, and she kind of, led me to believe that people could help out to as long as I give her heads up and information of everything that's going on and what to expect and stuff like that. So because I remember talking to George Perez, and George Perez is big on that, as well as I believe Walt and Louis Simonson as well. If I'm not mistaken.
Sure, they're on the board. Walt is on the board, and so is George. Like I said, it's fanboy heaven for me. But
yeah, but it's a great charity, and I'm glad that you actually talking about it, because I forgot about it, and it is something that does need to be made known more of to people, because these people just really kind of touched us emotionally and through their artwork and their stories and stuff like that. And I have seen some of the highlights on YouTube and how some of them actually do struggle.
It's horrible. It's really horrible. I mean, people are making in this hobby hundreds of thousands of dollars and off the work that these people did, and they don't have food. It's a tragedy, and I couldn't live with myself if I wasn't helping them, because I'm making a good living in this hobby. So, like I said, it's something I feel I not only need to do, but something I want to do. And I think, and I want to raise my daughter, right? Who's she's 20 now, but I want to raise her the same way that people should be, raised. You give if you have, and if you ever needed it, those people might come back and help you out.
No, absolutely. It's the same thing as a guy who might be 6'5". He's not to use his height and his stature to bully people, but to maybe protect other people. Same thing with people who are wealthy, use their money to help people who are not so wealthy.
Absolutely. We grew up reading good versus evil, right? And I think that's ingrained in most of us.
Yep.
I think that I want to be a superhero I wanted to be a superhero when I was a kid, right? Like everybody in our hobby, right? But that's not possible. So the way I can be a superhero is by helping those who need it.
That's commendable. It really is.
Well, it's just life. It's just how humans should be.
Absolutely. Are you familiar with Manny Melendez? He lives up in New York. Works for CBCS. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
He was working at the booth actually.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry, it just took me off guard. I was thinking about creators when you said Manny Melendez.
Okay. So he was at the booth actually, helping there. But he had a question. He had sent in a JLA blank cover, one of the Hero Initiative ones.
Yes.
Right. So there was some issue around that. I think there was some that were stolen.
Yes.
Right. So
we won't grade the certain blank covers because, once again, it was meant for charity, and it's not right. So if it was like, say, the Spider-Man 100 project, some employee would have taken, printed off an extra 10, thinking they could sell them, but we're not going to help them. Right. I don't believe in helping thieves ever. I believe in putting them in jail, and especially when it's about a charity. I mean, who can make money for themselves off of a charity? It just doesn't sit right with me, and I hope it doesn't sit right with everybody.
Right? No, it doesn't sit right with me either. So.
Right. But you know, people bought these books not knowing they were stolen. So the people who submit them are not the ones who stole them or got them somehow. And we, you know, we feel bad, but you know, there's nothing I can do to stop that. I have to return the book. That's all.
Right.
Okay, I'll let him know that. That was from him, that question specifically. All right. There was another question I had here.
Well, while he's looking for that one, I got one.
Sure.
Okay. I know that CBCS is going to grow. We know that they're going to grow out of all this. And some people have asked, looking back at what CGC did recently, and what they did, I think it was during the summer, was they actually raised their prices up just a little bit. It wasn't like ridiculous or anything like that, but that is a question that was asked in the chat. And I do know that really something like that would have to come to pay for you know, staff or supplies or any type of resources that may cost money and whatnot. I know you probably can't predict it now, but is that something that you think may be a possibility in the future as you guys continue to grow and expand, that you might have to raise the prices just a little bit?
Well, everything goes up, right? Well, whether it's plastics or salaries. I mean, I can't not give somebody a raise. But hopefully we'll be making enough money where we don't have to raise prices, but you never know. I don't foresee it, but and once again, with the resources that we're going to have, maybe we won't need to. I just don't, once again, like you said, I don't know the future. But I will tell you right now that since we opened as president of the company and an owner of the company, I had never taken an extra penny out of the company. I make sure that it goes to other people. So when we did raise prices at one point, it was because we needed to, not because we wanted to. I don't believe I make a good living. I don't need to raise prices to take money from people's pocket. I would raise prices, or I guess not me anymore, right? So I'm not used to saying that. But I don't believe that anybody wants to raise prices unless it's necessary.
Sure.
But then again, I have no clue about my distinguished competition. They could raise prices just because they want to make more money. I mean, you know, that's capitalism.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's inevitable in any industry. You know, the price of milk goes up, right? The cost of living goes up. And I need to make sure my people are taken care of because they take care of my customers.
All right. So, well, to kind of go off that, we got a question here of just what was the question? I'm sorry. What's a ballpark number of the number of graders that you have, and are you looking to hopefully expand that? Like, I mean, well, I would assume you're always looking to expand your business. So
right. We're always looking for qualified graders or young people who know comics very well, who want to learn. Mm-hmm. And of course, salaries depending on what you know and what experience you have, and how good you are at adapting. So yes, we are always looking for graders, and like I mentioned that, you know, anybody can send me or CBCS their resume or just a letter of introduction, because there's no school for grading, right? I don't have a certificate by my desk that says, you know, I finished grading school or I finished restoration detection school. But gotcha. We're always looking for qualified people.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, all right, to even go further with that, we had a question about using computers to grade comics.
It's probably improbable because the look of it's actually something that I think that we'll be addressing in the next price guide or the next grading guide of Overstreet. The look of the book is very important to us, right? Mm-hmm. So now let's say you take a book and you can't just say, you can't take a computer and say, a 1/4-inch crease is this grade. Because if the 1/4-inch crease is on the front cover and breaks color, and on the same exact book in the same exact grade, except the crease is on the back cover and doesn't break color, 10 out of 10 people are going to pick that book with the crease on the back cover, right?
Right.
And then there's Golden Age and Silver Age and Modern Age. Now, books were done differently. Now, if you see a bindery chip on the top of an Action 1 of the spine, it was because of the way it was cut, right? Now, if you see a bindery chip on, let's say, something modern like Baby Teeth #1, right? That's not usual. So you have to deduct for it, where you would not deduct for it on the Action 1.
Right. Okay.
Except in the highest of grades. I mean, it's not going to get a 10-0 if it has a bindery chip.
Right. Yeah, it's just the point of like the AI that would need to be grading is, 50 years away from being developed. Something like that. It's not smart enough to know the difference.
Well, at least I'm hoping at least 15 years because I'd like to keep my job for a while.
Definitely. Yeah, just a question from the chat there. I thought it was interesting. So
sure, no, it's very smart question.
Yeah.
Like I said, but the look of the book is so important that machines can't do it.
I understand.
All right. Well, we are getting right up to the 1.5 hour mark. Believe it or not, this has been quite a bit of time.
Wow, that's quick.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's what happens with this. We just get talking into this conversation, and next thing you know, it's been 1.5 hours, 2 hours. It really just goes by so fast. But
look, being in this hobby is fun, right?
Exactly. There's so much we could talk about. Like I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your original comic art and kind of some of the other pieces that you have, or some of the more interesting ones that maybe you've seen, pass by your desk, so to speak.
Well, I mean, I've handled, very large collections when I was with Heritage. But if you want to actually see my original comic art collection, part of it is on COMICOnversation.com. Do you all know that site?
Mm-hmm.
It's people call it CAF, C-A-F, COMICOnversation.com, and you can look under Steve Borock, and you can actually see my collection or parts of it. But the Neil Adams piece is up, my Frank Miller piece is up. I mean, the Starman cover that I spoke about is up.
Nice.
But there's I have a bunch of pieces. I mean, it's hard to talk about them all. Right now, there's, like I said, the Heritage auction's going on, and then right after that, the Comic Link auction's going on, and there's so many great pieces I want to buy, and I can't afford to buy them all. But I will walk away with something. I usually do. But like I said, the comic art market is really murky. You really need to do your due diligence before buying. And if any of you want any advice, I'm more than happy to, take a personal call or email at some point. But it's a strange market because unlike a Spider-Man 300, which there's, I have no clue how many were printed, by the way, but thousands and thousands, right? Mm-hmm. There's only one piece of original art per page or for a cover or for a splash or whatever it is. And so you can charge whatever you decide you think it's worth. It doesn't mean somebody will pay it. But when I was at Heritage, we got in an X-Men cover. I forgot the number, but it's the one where Cyclops is Ray from his eyes is busting through the logo. And it went for really crazy money because there was two people who had money who wanted to buy it because it was the first comic book they ever bought.
I'm talking about this one here?
So it went for probably triple what the estimate was.
Wow.
Because it was the only piece, it's the only piece out there. They can buy, 1,000 copies of that comic book, but they can only buy that one piece of the cover.
Was it this, like the original out of this cover here?
Sorry?
What number is that? I don't think you can see you, Chris.
This is 176.
Sounds like it. Is he like? I think he's like underwater.
He's underwater. There's an octopus like strangling him.
Yes.
And yeah.
That's the cover, and it went for like 3 times estimate or 4 times estimate or something like that. It just takes 2 bidders in auction to raise the price very high, and it does not mean that the X-Men cover before or after that is ever going to sell for that price, because it might not be the first cover that people who have a lot of money can afford, right? So it's a really strange market. There's no price guide, like I said. So, you know, when you go and you look up, you know, the price of a Spider-Man 300, you see what the recent sales have been and what the price guide says, and what, you know, there's all these price guides. Comicspriceguide.com is a great site. And then, of course, you know, Overstreet, and there's for CGC books, there's GP Analysis. And you can figure out what you think you should pay. With artwork, it's completely different. You have to have a limit that you're willing to spend. And if you've ever read my market reports in the Overstreet, at the end of the market report, it says, if you've read my market reports before, you can stop reading now. This is for the newer collectors. And my philosophy is that you should buy what you like, what you can afford, because if you don't love it, and there's ever a real recession or depression in this country, you're going to be holding toilet paper.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
But so if you love it, like my Starman cover, right? It doesn't matter what it's worth to me. I just love it. So if it's never worth more than $1, I don't care. Right?
Yeah.
Now, do I wish it would go up to 100,000? Absolutely. Is that ever going to happen? Probably not.
Yeah, that literally is the meaning of like something is worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know Justin here would love to get his hands on the cover for Thor 337.
Oh, so would I.
Any Thor.
And Walter Simonson holds on to all his artwork, so it's very rare to get a Walter Simonson.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And what's really nice is that besides the Hero Initiative, and what's nice about Walter, besides the Hero Initiative, I'm the auctioneer at New York City Read and C2E2. And we do it for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And we do an art auction. And Walt Simonson donates a piece every time. He's just such a phenomenal person. But, you know, this year we had Neil Adams do a piece. We had J. Scott Campbell, Alex Ross, and then, of course, people who aren't as such big names either. They donate a lot to it. And so I'm very, very happy. We've raised over $300,000 for St. Jude's since we started.
Wow.
And it looks like when we hit C2E2 this year, we'll hit the $400,000 mark. And St. Jude's, once again, is a real charity. I mean, if you know anything about St. Jude's, they take care of everything when your child is sick. I mean, your taxi rides, everything. It's a real charity, not one of these, not the Wounded Warrior Project, it's just, it's just there to take money, people who want to help the vets. It's a real charity, and I'm very honored to be part of it.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think we're getting towards the end of the show here. So I want to thank you very much for being here with us, not only being with us, but for this amount of time. This has been phenomenal to, pick your brain about, the latest news here, but just your experience in general and talking about the Hero Initiative. And it's been fantastic. So I really want to thank you for being here. But any last, thoughts, or, kind of want to tell everybody, drive some traffic to like cbcscomics.com or
well, sure. I mean, please go to cbcscomics.com.
Yeah.
But basically, I just want to thank you all for having me. I mean, this has, been a lot of fun and an honor. And
believe me, Steve, it was our pleasure.
Yeah. Well, if you all want me back sometime, if I wasn't too boring, I'll be happy to do this again. It's been a lot of fun for me, and a nice break in my my busy schedule. So I love talking to collectors, man. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome here anytime. So it's always on the table for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you all have my email and my telephone number, so use it. And once again, have a great night, and thank you guys again so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank
you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, y'all have a great night.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Take care.
Tell him he might need to hang up or exit out.
Or you might have to boot, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm trying.
There should be a like a red telephone. Oh, there you go.
There you go. There you
Got
go.
it. He's like, got it. Okay. Boom. Well, that was awesome, guys. I don't know about you, but I thought that was pretty phenomenal.
That was
That was a lot of fun. I was like, he just had a ton of information. I was just willing to, let it go. So that was awesome.
Exactly. And, there were so many questions. I hope we got everybody's questions in. I questions in my email, from Facebook, from forum, from the live chat. Like, I was really trying to, and I know you guys too as well. We're trying to do our best to get everybody's answered.
Yeah, it seems like he answered a lot of questions before we could even ask them, and just talking about. So
yeah.
Well, not only that, but some people came on late, and so they were asking questions that were actually already answered. But I think that he kind of answered our prayers, so to speak, when he said that he would love to come on again. And I think that would also be another opportunity for people to ask questions that maybe didn't get answered this time, or any new ones that they may have.
Yeah,
exactly. So hopefully we'll be able to have him on again soon, or eventually. So that's pretty cool. I know we're kind of running up to the time we normally sign off here, but did you want to run over anything briefly? I know we had a book that everybody voted on to kind of review. I did want to talk about a couple things really quickly, just some news from the week. Well, actually, first of all, this weekend, check out your local comic book shops, because Halloween Comic Fest is coming up. Hopefully your shop is participating. A great way to get out there and be part of the community. There's some pretty cool freebies as well, some free books. Just go to, I think it's HalloweenComicFest.com, and you can see all the books on there. There's a hot book that's been out called Sync through Comics Tribe, and there's a black bag version of that's out. So that's something to look for.
Nice.
Some other cool stuff there. So that is this weekend. Another thing that came up, and I know TiVo talked about it on his show, but it looks like Gareth Evans, not to be confused with Gareth Edwards. Gareth Evans is the director from the Raid Redemption. Freaking awesome movie. He is apparently going to be directing Joe Manganiello in his own Deathstroke movie. That's still all kind of in talks and fluid right now, but it's pretty interesting that that's come out, and we don't know if it'll be part of the sort of connective tissue of the DCEU or if it will be part of the solo movies, right? So that's all on the table there. I did mention Gareth Edwards. He directed Rogue One. And to kind of bridge that gap, Ben Mendelsohn, who was director Orson Krennic in Rogue One, he's in talks to actually play a villain in the Captain Marvel movie. No name for it yet, but we do know it's going to be the Skrulls as the villain, so maybe somebody related to that, or maybe it's somebody from the Air Force Base where she was flying out of, we're not quite sure yet. Yeah, but Ben Mendelsohn has made a career on being awesome villains, so that's cool news to me. Venom started filming. I know that's going to be Chris's favorite movie, but Andy Serkis was talking about it, and he said that Tom Hardy is going to be doing a motion capture. That'll be his performance. That's something that Andy Serkis is like really well known for. People say that they're in awe of him when they see him, like with the mocap on and just like how he emotes and stuff, and it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the other thing I wanted to mention is that Vincent D'Onofrio is coming back for season 3 of Daredevil.
Nice.
So that's cool, right? So we're going to be getting him back, and that's just more confirmation of Born Again, because he was a pretty big part of that story, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be good. And then we have Eric Olson, who's going to be the showrunner, and he did like I think maybe 1 or 2 episodes of Arrow. He's also known for Man in the High Castle, so that'll be pretty cool. But yeah, D'Onofrio, good news, my opinion. So that's the news I wanted to run through. You know, big thing there. The big focus for tonight was, of course, Steve, CBCS, and the merger, the acquisition. So that is it, folks. This was episode 61. Oh no, we were going to talk about the book, weren't we? Do you want to just give your thoughts on it or a quick grade? I know y'all read it. Just real quick though.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a quick story. It's just a like. I mean, it's a throwback type of story. Thor's still, you know, speaking like old broken English with thou and stuff. So, I mean, as far as a throwback story, it was fun. I think this is actually a 6-part miniseries or something like that. So, it could have been a one-shot, but we'll see what's happened. Plus, the end though, we got the bonus reprint of what Journey into Mystery 3. What was it? 316, 312. Or 112, sorry, with Hulk versus Thor. So that was fun.
Cool. So 1 through 5, what do you give it?
3. I give it 3.
Okay. Chris, did you read it? You're on mute. I can't hear you.
We still can't hear you.
He's cussing us all out.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
Chris.
Party foul. Can't hear you. Your lips are moving, but nothing's coming out of them.
Well, while he's figuring that out, I'll go. I thought it was a great read. I had no intentions of actually picking that up until I saw Todd Knock on the doing the artwork, and so. Real quick, Chris. But I thought it was a great issue, and here's why: because they didn't jack the price up to like $5 or anything like that. They kept it at $4. Although I don't like that price for a modern book, but because they threw in the Hulk and Thor throwback issue, like Justin said in the back, to me that made it all worth it. So it was completely worth it, and it was a story that had a beginning and an end, and I like that because I really have no intentions of reading or collecting Thor, so I was able to enjoy it for what it was, and it was just a fantastic read. And I think I give it a 5 out of 5 because of all that.
Cool. All right, Chris.
All right. No, making sure you guys can hear me again.
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay. All right. So like I said, well, as I was trying to say, I gave it about a 3. I thought it was. I mean, it was nothing special. It was just kind of like, you know, just something to reestablish old Thor with the old English and everything like that. So something just to put him there quickly. I was able to just kind of read through it quickly and then just kind of put it aside. It's not like it's going to be anything major, at least from what I saw. So it's just, you know. I mean, if you're a big Thor fan, like, you know, how like Ray Jr. is, he probably picked it up and enjoyed it, you know, going back to, you know, Thor's roots. But you can pass it by. It's not gonna, you know, it's not a must-have.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's not for the casual. I mean, it's definitely
you have to be an enthusiast. You have to be a Thor enthusiast.
It's aimed at Thor readers. Like it's aimed at, you know, it's a fun legacy one shot. I guess it does say the end, and Flawed said it's the end. It's just a one shot, so it's just a one shot.
Yeah,
but I mean, as far as a throwback, I enjoyed it, but I'm biased. I'm a Thor fan, so. Does he
not use the Old English anymore?
No.
Oh, he stopped that a long time ago.
When like J. Michael Straczynski took over, like he changed it at that point.
Yeah, because I honestly don't like it, but I just was dealing with it because I thought that's how he always talks.
No. They quit years ago now.
Yeah, he modernized for a while, and then now that he's back to, but I mean,
it's only Jane that's been doing it. And I think she's just because she actually changes personas, when she changes into Thor, whereas Odinson just had the hammer and he was himself,
Yep,
that's right. Yeah, so I liked it. I thought it was a fun read. I liked the art. It really popped, especially on a few of those pages. It was like, boom, like hit you in the face with the colors.
Yep.
It was cool because it is a one-shot that they didn't, do the $5.99 deal with us. So that's good that, would have been not surprised to see that on there. So that was good. I don't know, give it like a 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, so that's my rating on it there. All right, guys, that'll do it. Comic Conversation, episode 61. We had a special guest on tonight, Mr. Steve Borock. So that was fun. We'll see you guys, I don't know, in a week. But stay tuned for Justin on Sunday for Sunday Morning Comics. Hopefully it'll be on in the morning, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Sunday Morning Comics.
That's right. And then check out my Twitter page next week. Monday or Tuesday will be the new poll for the new book for next week. And next week we'll be talking about, of course, Halloween Comic Fest and all the good stuff that's happened since we all got together this day here. So that's it, folks. Have a good night. This has been episode 61.
Peace out.
Have a good one, everyone.